Now, I think this is one of the most useful parts of today's webinar is uh, what to do when you have disagreements with suggested changes. Is it okay to disagree with the peer reviewer? Of course it's okay. And are peer reviewers always right? Not necessarily. Peer reviewers are experts in their field. However, this does not mean that their comments should be taken as gospel. It's okay to disagree with the peer reviewer. Remember that peer reviewers do not have the same expertise as you. They're not always right. They may ask for changes that are just not possible. And they may ask for you to do more experiments that will take months and months. So you want to consider if you can easily address the comment or not. Or maybe the peer reviewers misunderstood something. You can point out politely in your responding letters that perhaps they misunderstood something, or you may put some clarifications in the text. And just be open to revising text, even slightly, to address the peer reviewer comments. The reviewer may be wrong, but check if you are right. If you disagree with some comments, explain why. Make a stronger case for your review. You can add more evidence. You can make a better judgment, or look for a compromise that'll satisfy both sides. Sometimes if the suggested change is just very, very minor and doesn't affect the conclusions of your study or the meaning of your results, maybe it's good to make that change just to keep that peer reviewer happy. But don't compromise the integrity of your research. So you should stick behind your guns, your assertions that you made in your paper. So at least you can maybe agree that you disagree. Watch your tone when you respond to reviewers. Remember, they're critiquing your work. They are not critiquing you. So it's okay to disagree, but not okay to disrespect. So don't let your responses reflect any bitterness. So if you do disagree on some points, say so honestly. Say, we respectfully disagree. And then support your statements with a rational scientific explanation. And you can cite additional unpublished work, or you can refer to unpublished work or cite additional references from the literature to support your arguments. And another tip is don't just agree for the sake of agreeing. You want to evaluate each of the reviewer's comments based on their merits. Do not agree with the reviewer for the sake of agreeing, or with the mistaken impression that the journal editor expects you to incorporate all of the reviewer's suggestions. You should not follow every single reviewer's suggestions. You should defend your work. You should make the changes that'll improve the paper, and you should not make the changes if it detracts from your paper. At the end of the day, it's your study and your reputation that's at stake. But choose your battles wisely. If a small change to a sentence or paragraph requested does not affect the intended meaning, you can do your best to make the change. It does not hurt you, and it sends the message that you took their suggestions seriously. However, if you believe the requested change will negatively affect your paper, go ahead and respectfully disagree. It's very common to disagree with reviewers. Ultimately, it's the editors that are reading your responses. They're the ones making the decision on your paper. So it is okay to disagree. When you do disagree, provide well-reasoned arguments. Do not simply state your disagreement. You want to provide as many details as necessary to help the reviewer understand your line of reasoning. And wherever possible, cite published studies to support your argument, or you may have additional work that you did that was not published, but these are little side experiments that you did. Oh yeah, we did look at this, and the results weren't very significant. So it's okay to support your argument with evidence. So do reviewers and editors always agree on what's worthy of publication? That is not always the case. In fact, the editor's decision-making policies will vary. Some reject if only one peer reviewer recommends rejection. Some reject when the majority of the reviewers recommend rejection. or some only when all reviewers recommend rejection. It's very common for peer reviewers to give conflicting feedback on the same manuscript. One reviewer may say accept, the other one may say reject, or major revisions. As one journal editor said, unanimity between reviewers is rare. So in cases of conflicting feedback, the journal editor may choose to send the paper to a third reviewer before arriving at a decision. If this is the case, the author may have to wait longer for the peer review process to be completed. So what should you do if you have conflicting reviews? So minor differences of opinion are naturally, but if you have a diametrically opposed views or diametrically opposite views, this can be very perplexing. Here you want to see which reviewer you agree with more and follow his or her advice, and justify your decision to the editor. Alternatively, you can request the editor to give you a third opinion, but ultimately this will take more time if they ask a third reviewer to review the manuscript. Ultimately, it's the journal editor who will make the decision on how to handle the conflict. And providing a well-reasoned argument to the editor of why you chose one reviewer's comment over the other is likely to tip the balance in your favor. One thing you should never do is pit one reviewer against the other. One argument you should never use when responding to peer reviewer comments is to say that one reviewer took issue with an aspect of the paper, whereas the other reviewer saw nothing wrong with it. What you should do is respond to each reviewer as if the review were the only one that you received. In some situations, the reviewers will make complete opposite recommendations. So in these situations, you have to decide which suggestion will improve the paper. However, do not ignore either suggestion by using the argument that the reviewers could not agree. So you should provide a logical explanation to both reviewers for why you feel that one of the suggestions would be more effective in improving the paper. So respond to both of the reviewers as if it's the only one that only review that you received. And that will help you get your paper past this stage, and a good editor will see that you are making the best decision possible based on the conflicting arguments that the reviewers are giving you.